Hi guys, it's another episode of SewAddicts. My name is Dami and welcome to my channel. I'm so glad to have you guys here on my show today with me. And of course, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make an oversized sweater. So yeah, it's pretty much the end of the summer. I mean, summer it's gone. It's left the building already. So now we're welcoming fall, which is the, nippy, chilly kind of weather. And I'm pretty sure there's some fall/winter lovers out there, but I could definitely say I'm more of a summer person. The fall is like, to me. But, you still got to embrace what happens. It is what it is. So, obviously, this tutorial is going to show you how to make the oversized sweater so you can stay warm and still look cute, because that's what we're all trying to do. So, of course, I always go into the materials we need for a project, and the first and pretty much the only main thing we need is our fabric. So you want to get a really nice medium to a heavyweight fabric, because this is fall, so it's all about the thickness of the fabric. So I got this from a local fabric store here in Chicago, Fishman Fabrics, and you want to get obviously something that really stretches, because we don't put a zipper or a button in our sweater except it's pretty much a decorative or design detail. So you want to get something that stretches really well, and it's more so, I call it like a sweater fabric, because you know how it feels. This is a novelty fabric on its own, because it's just a blend. It's mixed with like cotton and jersey and wool and so many things. But when you see the fabric, you're definitely going to know that yes, this is going to be perfect. So aside from that, obviously you need your thread so you could sew it all together, but that's pretty much it. If you want to add any other decorative element, then you could go ahead and definitely do that. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, so we're just going to get started with our project. So the first thing you want to do is grab a sweater, just a basic sweatshirt. This is what we're going to be using to create a pattern for oversized sweater. So then you want to grab your fabric, and you're going to be laying your fabric on fold. So you want to lay your fabric really, really nice and making sure that the stretchy side goes in that direction. So now you're going to be grabbing your sweatshirt, and we're going to be folding our sweatshirt in half, making sure that the front is facing us. So because we're going to be cutting out the front first, so we want to make sure to actually work on the front. So make sure to fold your fabric in half nicely, and also make sure to fold your sweatshirt in half as well. Of course, you could also take a couple of pins to make sure that your sweatshirt doesn't move and it's holding nicely in place. And of course, this is what we're also going to be using to cut out a pattern. So now I'm just taking my sweatshirt and laying it on my fabric, making sure that everything is laying nicely in place. So then we're going to be tracing out the sweatshirt. So I like the size of the sweatshirt right now, and I also like the length, so I'm just going to be following this all around. But if you want to make yours longer, definitely go for it. If you want to make yours a little bigger, definitely go for it as well. So I'm tracing mine all around, as you can see right here. And now, as you can see, I do have the sleeve seams right there, so I'm going to be tracing that as well, because I'm just going to be making this sweatshirt the exact same way for my sweater as well. So I'm just tracing that seam right there all around. Do not trace your sleeves. We're going to be tracing out our own sleeves later on. So now when it comes to the neckline, as you can see, they already have a collar. So I'm going to be taking that collar out, and I'm just going to be tracing the seam below the collar, and this is going to be my original neckline. So I'm just tracing that all around, as you guys can see. And make sure to have all your markings. Make sure to use a chalk or use an invisible pen, whichever works for you, or you could even use pins, whichever works for you. So now that we've taken that off, as you can see, now I'm just truing my lines, making sure all my lines are straight, and including my neckline, you want to make sure that is a nice curve as well. And of course, we also want to add our seam allowance. Don't forget to add your seam allowance to everything. And for my bottom, I'm adding 1 inch, and everything else is a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So of course, we're going to cut it out just like that. And you probably want to also label this to be your front, so you don't, mix it up with your back later on. So now we have a beautiful front, and of course we also need to trace out our back. So the back is basically the same idea as the front. You want to get your fabric again laying nicely on fold. So now we're going to be grabbing the sweatshirt again, but this time instead of folding it in half towards the front, we're going to be folding it in half towards the back. So after this, the same idea as the front, you want to place that right there towards the fold, and you want to trace everything out again. So I went ahead and just traced out my back, added on my seam allowances, and now we have our back pattern and our front pattern. You could also label both of them front and back just so you don't mix them up later. So now we're going to be tracing out our sleeves. So as you can see, I folded my fabric right there towards my self edge. So I'm going to be folding the top side of my sleeve, placing it towards the self edge as well. So I'm going to be laying, don't forget you want to trace out the front side first. So I'm going to be laying this on fold again towards the self edge. So I'm actually placing this half of an inch away from my self edge and laying my sleeve right there. So make sure to pin that really nicely, make sure it's laying really nice, and of course we're going to be tracing that out again. So trace out all the sides you need to trace out. If you want to make your sleeves longer, make sure to make yours longer in this stage. And again, I'm also tracing out my seams that attaches my sleeve to the actual sweater itself. So as you can see, my sleeves actually comes a little bit away from my neckline, so I still have a little bit of neckline to trace. So make sure to trace that as well, depending on what your sleeve or what your seams look like on your sweater. Just make sure to trace all the seams. So now for the bottom, I'm not going to be tracing the part where my sleeves stop because I'm going to be eliminating the rib knit. So they actually attach this other physical part to my sweatshirt, so I'm going to be creating my own later on in the video. So I'm just going to eliminate that when I'm tracing this part out. So after that, definitely take off your sleeves, true up all the lines, make them straight, and of course add all the seam allowances you need to add, and you're pretty much ready to cut. And likewise for the back as well, you want to flip over your sleeves basically the same way, trace everything you need to trace, your seams, your necklines, everything, and you're pretty much ready with your back sleeves as well. And now for the fun part, we're going to be attaching our back body piece to our front body piece as well. And you want to make sure to lay them right sides to right sides. And of course, I'm going to be showing you guys how to do that by pinning them together. And if you do notice, my back is actually a little longer than my front, but this is just a design detail. You could definitely make yours the same length if you choose, and you want to sew that all the way down the side seams to about 2.5 inches away from the bottom. And of course, I proceeded to my machine to sew down the side seams, and make sure to press out your side seams so everything is laying really, really nice, and you can see the 2.5 inches I told you guys to leave at the bottom as well. Now we're going to be tackling our sleeves, and you want to make sure to label both sleeves front and back so you don't get confused when you're sewing it later on. So now we're going to be placing both sleeves together and sewing it right there at that edge and this other edge down the sewing machine. So of course I went on my sewing machine and sewed both edges together. It's laying really nice and it's also pressed. So now we're going to be doing the rib knit that I told you guys about earlier on in the video. So you want to make sure to measure the opening of your sleeve. So mine is 5 inches, so 5 times 2 is 10. So I'm going to be making mine 10 inches. So my fabric is stretched in this direction, which is going to be used for the rib knit. So how wide do you want your rib knit to be? I decided to make mine about 3 inches wide. So I'm measuring 3 inches all the way from the edge of that fabric, because you want to also place the fabric on fold. So I'm measuring 3 inches wide. So in terms of length, as you could see before, my length was 10 inches, but I wanted this to be a little snug. So I'm going to be going down 1 inch. So I'm going to be making my length 9 inches. So our rib knit cuff is going to be 3 inches wide and 9 inches long. So again, add all your seam allowance. Excuse me, I'm just putting a 1/2 inch eyeballing it here, but make sure to use your ruler and of course cut out your rib knit, and this is going to be used to attach to your sleeve. So of course you want to make 2 of this for both sleeves. So sew this down right there at the sewing machine, and of course when you do, it should look something like this. Do not also forget to press it. So you fold it in half, and now you have this 3-inch nice cuff. So now we're going to be attaching to our sleeve, and you want to make sure that it's laying really, really nice. We're going to be sewing it in this direction, and of course I'm showing you guys how to sew it by pinning all the side seams of the rib knit and the sleeves together. And I sewed it, and this is how it looks. So I went ahead and also serged it, but you don't have to do that. Everything should be laying really nice at this point. Then we're going to proceed to attach our sleeves to the main body of the fabric. So you want to make sure to attach the front sleeves to the front main body and the back sleeves to the back main body as well. So now we're going to attach the sleeves to the main body, and you want to make sure that both your side seams and the seams of your sleeves are aligned. So you want to make sure to attach both of them, and of course I'm just going to pin that all the way around. So as you can see, I pinned that all the way around, all the way to the neck and all the way to the arm as well. And you just want to run that through the sewing machine, making sure that everything is laying really nicely, and the front is attached to the front and the back is attached to the back. So when you're done sewing that, it should probably look something like this. So everything is laying nice, and you have that nice seam right there going down the sides. So now we're going to be cutting out our turtleneck or collar, as you would say. And if you want to make this, you definitely want to measure the length of your front neckline. So I went ahead to measure the front of my neckline, and also you want to measure the back length of your neckline. If you don't want a turtleneck, you can definitely just skip this part and just go ahead and finish your neckline in a regular way. So you want to grab another piece of fabric and make sure it stretches in this direction, and I'm just going to be using this to measure a 13-inch line. So this 13 inches is for my front collar or the front turtleneck, and I measured 13 inches total, and you want to just make that a nice straight line. So I'm making this a nice straight line, but when you're doing this, you want to also think about how wide you want your collar to be. So I want my collar to be about 5 inches wide, so I'm measuring 5 inches away from that 13-inch previous line, and I'm not going to add any seam allowances to my edge right there because I want the edge of my neckline to be raw and unfinished. So I added the seam allowance right there at the bottom, and of course you want to cut out the seam allowance, and you also want to cut out your width. So the 5-inch line at the top, I'm also going to be cutting that really nice and straight because I'm not finishing this again, like I said before. So I'm going to be just cutting that right there at that line. So now we're going to be figuring out the shape of our collar. So you want to make sure to find the middle of your 13-inch mark or whatever your mark is, and marking that middle and just folding that piece in half. So when you fold that, now I'm just gonna take my chalk and freehand this into some kind of curve, so it's tapered at the neckline but a little bigger towards the edge of the turtleneck, as you guys can see here. So I just added the seam allowance at both edges at the bottom but not at the top. So of course I also went ahead and did my back pattern, making it 11 inches instead of 13 inches wide. And of course you also want to label that because we're going to be sewing that together at both edges on both sides. So I went to the sewing machine, I sewed that at both edges, and now we're going to be attaching the tapered side to our neckline. So I'm just going to be pinning the front and the back together. So that's why I said label your pattern, so you're not putting the back on the front and the front on the back. So you want to pin that again right there at the both seams, making sure they're laying really nice, and you just want to pin that all around the neckline. And if you want to stretch it a little bit, you could definitely do that. And you could just run this down the sewing machine, and it should look something like this, laying really nice. Make sure to also press it. And now you just want to finish the hem of your sweater. So now my hem, like I told you guys before, it is 1 inch. So I'm pinning that 1 inch all the way around, and I'm just going to be top stitching that all the way around, basically the front and the back. But then when you do come to the opening at the edge, which is the design detail that I was telling you guys about, if you didn't do this, then just totally top stitch it and don't worry about this. But if you did, you want to top stitch that edge just like this. So I top stitched the bottom, and I went ahead and also top stitched the edge so it lays really nicely, as you can see. And after that, you're pretty much done with the sweater process, and I hope you enjoyed the work. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you guys actually learned a lot from this video. And now you can, make any oversized sweater, different colors, different sizes, different people, different anything, basically. I hope you guys were able to pick up some techniques to do this. This is more of an intermediate kind of sewing level. So I really hope you guys were able to learn a lot from this video. I also hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, don't forget to leave me a big, ginormous thumbs up. And definitely comment on this video if you liked it. If you have any questions or you would like to see suggestions for my next video. And of course, scroll down there and subscribe to my channel so you can see this awesome face next week. And I will catch you awesome sew addicts next week.